Hello again, my kindergarten dolphins. I'm back to work on some math today. Now we are going to be starting a brand new math unit today. We've worked on numbers and hidden partners and shapes. Now we're going to be talking about measurement. We're going to be comparing things by height, weight, and size. And I have some cool pictures up here to kind of get you thinking about this. I have a giraffe and a turtle. How do those look different? One of them is much taller than the other one. And I have a rhinoceros and a feather. How would those things be different? One of them would be much larger and much heavier than the other, and it would be the rhino. That would be much bigger and heavier than a teeny tiny feather. So we're going to think all about comparing things this unit and how we measure them. And don't worry, we'll talk about what all those words mean. So to begin, let's go over our objective and our materials, and then we'll talk about some new vocabulary. So our objective for today, I almost forgot our song. We can't forget the song. Objective is what we are going to learn. Now, today's objective says, I can compare items by size. And that word compare, I have highlighted. That's going to be one of our vocabulary words, so we'll talk about that in just a minute. We also have another objective, and it says, I can identify taller than and shorter than. And I showed my hands taller than and shorter than. We'll talk about why we did that as well. Today we're going to be needing our math packet, and you're going to open up to a page that looks like this. I'll tell you the number in just a little bit. You're also going to need crayons and a pencil, or any coloring materials and a pencil. All right, let's get started. Like I said, to begin, we're going to go over some new vocabulary. Now remember that vocabulary are words that we might not be totally familiar with, words that we might not really understand yet. So we're going to talk about what they mean. Our first word is compare. Compare means to look at the differences between two things. Remember, part of our objective was comparing things by size. So we're going to look at the differences between two items, but we might not be looking for how they're different by their color or by what they are. We really want to think about how are they different in size? Which one is taller and which one is shorter? That's really what we're going to be looking at today. The next word we need to know is height. And this word means how we measure how tall or long something is. So when we talk about height, you might have known that word from when we ask, how tall are you? And we use a ruler, or maybe you stand against a wall and you measure how tall you are. You're using a number to say, oh, this is how tall or how long something is. That's what height is. Now we're going to talk about tall and short. When something is tall, it means that their height, it's a bigger number, it's a larger number. So if somebody is taller than me, their height, how we measured it, is a bigger number than my height. If something is shorter, that means that that item's height is smaller. So if someone is shorter than me, when we measure their height, the number is going to be a smaller number than my height was. The other thing we want to think about today is called an endpoint. And that is where we're going to start measuring something. So like I said, when we take our height, maybe like at home or at the doctor's office, they're going to have you stand up nice and tall, and they're going to measure all the way from your toes to your head. Your head might be the end point where they say, oh, yep, this is how tall you are. We don't want to start measuring like at your belly button. That wouldn't tell us how tall the entire thing is. Now, if I was going to look at how tall this ribbon is compared to me, now, this ribbon is actually shorter than me. If I go all the way down to my feet, the ribbon only comes up to my waist. But what if I did this? Now you might think, oh my goodness, that ribbon is taller than me so. But look, the end point is right here. So remember, we want to have things start at the same end point. I'm going to put it down to my feet, all the way down to my feet, and then we see it's actually shorter than me. Kind of tricky. So we're going to make sure that when we think about comparing two things, when we think about looking at the difference in their height, we want to make sure they have the same endpoint. Otherwise, it can be pretty tricky. All right, I think we're ready to start doing some comparing. I have my book and I have my ribbon. Now, which of these things is taller? The ribbon is taller, right? Even though they're not at the same endpoint. If I wanted them to be at the same endpoint, what I could do is I could start them at the same place. So now you can see that the ribbon and the book both start at the same place. But look, my ribbon goes way up higher. That is a much taller object. What if I put the book up here? Is the book taller than the ribbon now? No, it's not taller because look, we still see that the ribbon is taller, even book's endpoint up here now. Open up to page 18. It's going to be lesson 1 problem set, but it's from your old packet still. It's labeled as page 18. I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, our directions say, for each pair, that means set of 2, circle the longer one. Imagine the paper strips are lying flat on a table. Okay, so we're going to imagine like we're looking at strips of paper here, or you could imagine it like my ribbon. And it says we want to circle the longer one or the taller one. And we're going to imagine that they're laying flat. So sometimes we might not be able to always see exactly the endpoints lined up. We have to think, which one looks like it's taller or longer? So let's begin with our first set here. Which one of these is longer, or which one of these is the longer one? Is it my first one or my second one? It's my first one. I can see that this one is much longer. Now let's look at our next set. Which one is longer, my first one or my second one? This time it's my second one. Now it's kind of tricky because it kind of looks like this one goes a little bit up higher here, but look at this endpoint down here. It's much longer than this one. So this piece of paper must be longer. What about my last set here? My first or my second one? Which one is longer? It's my second one. Kind of the same as our other problem here in the middle. I can see that if I took this piece of paper and I stuck it down here to make the endpoints line up, this one would be much taller. So it's my longer one. All right, now I'm going to go down to my first little box here at the bottom of the page. It says, draw a flower that is taller than the vase. So to make sure that I can make it taller, I'm going to start at the same endpoint here. But then I'm going to go up higher than my vase is. Then I'm going to draw my flower. So now my flower is taller than the vase. The next problem says, draw a tree that is taller than the house. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to have my endpoints start the same so that I can make sure that I can get up way higher. And here's my tree, and it goes up taller than the house. Nice work. Let's move on to our next page. Okay, now we see some different materials up at the top of the page. And our direction says, for each pair, circle the shorter one. So this time we're looking at something similar. Some of our endpoints might not match up, so we have to look at the whole item and think, is that shorter? And we're going to circle the shorter one this time. So first, I have my glue and my pen. Now it looks like the endpoints are the same here. They're both starting at the same point, but one of them doesn't go up as high. That's going to be our shorter one. Which one is shorter? The glue! Very good. Now our next problem's a little bit trickier. Our endpoints are not the same. One hammer starts down here, the other one starts up here. So I'm going to pretend like this one starts at the same point. Which hammer would be shorter? It would be my second hammer up here. If it started down here, it wouldn't go up as high. That means that it is shorter. Now my last pair is of some lightning bolts. It kind of looks like they have the same endpoint at the top, but one of them is not as long. Which one is shorter, my first one or my second one? It's my first one. Very good. All right, let's go down to our last little problems here before you move on to your homework. The first one says, draw a bookmark that is shorter than this book. So I'm going to start at the same endpoint here. I'm going to draw a little bookmark, but it's not going to go up as high or as tall as my book. So it is shorter than my book when we compare them. The next problem says, draw a crayon that is shorter than this pencil. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to start at the same endpoint just to make sure that I make it shorter. And then I'm not going to come up as tall as my pencil. And here is my little blue crayon that is shorter than my pencil. Awesome work! I think you guys are getting the hang of comparing our taller and shorter. So let me show you what you're going to do for homework. Okay, so your homework is going to be this page right here. It's page 20, lesson 1 homework. Now the first thing you're going to do is write your name and the date, and then I'm going to read you the directions for what you're going to do here on these two problems. The first one says, draw 3 more flowers that are shorter than these flowers. Count how many flowers you have now. Write the number in the box. So you're starting out with 2 flowers here. You have to add 3 more and make them shorter than these flowers. Remember that a good way to do that is to have your flowers start at the same endpoint. Don't start them like up here, because then it's going to be hard to compare them. Remember, it's easier to compare our items when they start at the same endpoint. The next problem says, draw 2 more ladybugs that are taller than these ladybugs. Count how many ladybugs you have now and write the number in the box. Then, at the bottom of the page, you have a little bonus problem. It says, on the back of your paper, so if you flip this paper, it's just a blank one on the back, draw something that is taller than you. Then draw something that is shorter than a flagpole. So think about yourself. What would be something taller than me? I know for me, something taller than me is this whiteboard. Something else taller than me might be like a building, or my house, or my car. Something shorter than a flagpole. Flagpoles can be pretty tall, so something shorter than a flagpole might be like a car. Those things are tall, but not as tall as a flagpole. So that's what you're going to do on the back of your page. Then for your homework, what you can do is show me your page. You can take a little video showing me front and back. And then you're going to be all done. All right, kindergarten, I'll see you all later. Good luck.